comunque inizierei i lavori proprio per evitare di fare la corsa fannosa di questa mattina con dei recuperi anche un po', diciamo, poco educati da parte mia, ma che purtroppo il ruolo impone. Allora la sessione del pomeriggio inizia con il tema della finanza sociale, il ruolo della finanza sociale nei modelli di economia. 3 banche importanti che hanno questa finalità nel loro statuto, che hanno questa missione, italiane e straniere, e quindi vediamo l'esperienza, cioè in breve cerchiamo di capire come si caratterizza la loro attività. Darei subito la parola quindi a Peter Blom, che è il CEO di Triodos Bank e che appunto ci racconta dell'esperienza sua.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me here. What I would like to do is say a few things about our bank, but mainly go into the whole question of impact investing, and not impact investing in general, but impact investing for everyone. I think that's an important topic today, because there is a tendency that we see impact investing as only something for a financial elite, big foundations, and I think it's very important to make the case for impact investing for everyone. I'm Peter Blom. I'm a long-time banker. I was co-founder of Triodos Bank in 1980, so 34 years ago. We started this bank with 5 people. That was still possible in 1980 to start a bank with 5 people. And I was basically the loan apartment. So from 1980, I've been working in financing social entrepreneurs. We didn't call them then social entrepreneurs, or more alternative projects we financed. And we built a bank based on that. Today we are a bank with 10 billion in assets, investment funds, and the normal banking services in 5 countries, and we employ about 1,000 people. So in the 34 years we really gained a lot of experience with financing environmental projects, social projects, cultural projects, what I think we would call today many social entrepreneurs. What I think is interesting of the whole impact investing development is that it is also introducing a new paradigm. And what do I mean by that? I think in the 19th century we as society discovered financial return. But we have to realize that financial return was only for the elite. A few people could make those returns, huge returns, but the mass people had no really entry to that, access to that. In the 20th century, I think it's the age of the technicians. Then we added risk to the whole investment paradigm. We said it's about return and risk, and more return probably means more risk, and how can we manage that? We have not always been very good at it, particularly in this century we made some big mistakes as a bank by not getting the return and risk right, and we see what happened with the financial crisis. I think the promise for the 21st century is that we add another element, and that's impact. And that only 10 years ago, when we're speaking about impact, it was always seen as a trade-off, as something what would probably make the risk higher and make the return lower. But I think that is changing rapidly. And just 2 weeks ago, we published the G8 report on social impact investing, and I was on the task force of that task force. And you will see later this afternoon a video message from Sir Ronald Cohen, who is the chair of that, and he will tell you more about it. But the third dimension, impact, I think is quite important, and I see our bank as one of the sort of front runners in that, exploring that territory and see what's possible and what's not possible. But what is more about impact investing than just define it as a new element in the financial techniques is also the element of how we do it and who is involved. So how it works can be very easy explained. Social impact bonds, all this sort of measured fee income related to impact bonds, it's all a technique, but who will be involved and how we organize them, I think is very important for the coming years, coming decades. And I think there is a unique possibility to bring more people into that spectrum and not just an elite like we had in the 19th century and not just the technicians like we had in the last century. So I think this is an important element. It also enables to develop a social economy. And why is there a relation between social impact investing and a social economy? I think the social economy, and we heard it also from the minister this morning, is a very diverse economy. Many people want to participate. That is the modern society. We are individualized. It's not automatically we go to a factory. If we work somewhere through an office, we create our own businesses. And I think that is an important new development where we have to look at. But that diversity in that sector, and you see many young people starting their own business today in internet, but also more and more in other areas, is that you also need a diverse supply from funding, from money. And I'm not sure if the big scale banks can deliver that. They become so heavily regulated that it's very difficult to go in this very subtle network ecosystem, I would call it, of entrepreneurs, and they are not always able, even our bank has challenges there, to be close to that entrepreneur, to start to help this network, this subtle ecosystem where we build on the future economy to finance that. So I think there should be also a diverse supply. And you see already some of the initiatives coming up. Crowdfunding is quite well known. It is about $2.5 billion worldwide, but growing fast. And I think that is a form where you are quite close to the entrepreneur and you create a diversity on the supply side, what is needed to be close to the real economy. If there is one thing we have learned from the financial crisis, that finance banking has to be much closer to what's happening in the real economy and cannot just do that from a distance. They have to know what they are financing, otherwise there will be big disasters. So important that we create this ecosystem and that we try to create as many as possible sources of funding. And that's also where I think the whole retail impact funding comes. We have created in our bank about 20 funds, investment funds, in total about 2.5 billion. And in those funds, we make it possible for people to invest from amounts up to 50, 100 euro. And what I think is important in that model is that every person, and I think every person through internet, through social media, has a picture of what sort of world he wants to live in, has a relation to the economy he or she wants to finance. And I think that is an important development, and I think we should encourage that. Is that possible? I think it's a big challenge, and I want to give you one big dilemma we see as sort of social financial sector. And when I talk about this sector, we worldwide have an association of what we call the Global Alliance for Value, for Banking on Value, the GABV, where 25 banks worldwide try to make this happen. There is one bank also in Italy, Banca Etica, who's a member of that. But we have also banks member in Bangladesh, in Peru, in Canada, in the US, and quite a few in Europe as well. Those banks try to create it, but they face one challenge, and particularly here in Europe we do that. We see on the one side politicians and society say, and the minister said it this morning as well, I liked very much his speech, we have to take more responsibility ourselves. That's what we ask from the people. So it's not anymore that pension funds take care of you. Probably we have to sort of organize our own pension funds. And you could see that as quite a pressure on people. On the other side, it's also a possibility to change society through money. Because quite a few people who grew up in the 80s and the 90s and were left people who want to change society have learned that through money you can probably change much more than just marching against the establishment. So I think people start to realize with money you can really make a change. And I think we should enable people to do that. And we see that more and more people through the internet want to have that access to their investment. So we want to make people give people more responsibility, want to make them to choose themselves more radically to what they want. On the other hand, you see our regulators after the financial crisis who actually trying to avoid that. they keep telling us the small investor should just go for a saving account or for a very plain vanilla investment fund. So you see, on the one side, we all as politicians, society, we want to emancipate people, give them the tools to create their own life, to invest in their own future. On the other side, you see the regulators who make it more and more difficult. MiFID II is one of the new regulations coming up in a year, what makes it almost impossible for people who have less than 100,000 euro to invest directly in where their heart is. And I think what is very important in the near future, that we make much more people part of that change process in society. They feel connected, they're supported, and not say, well, you are just an ordinary citizen, you cannot invest, you can go just for a saving account. And I think saving accounts will not bring a lot. So it's also a division of the people who have money and the people who have not money. And I feel strongly that we should bridge this gap at the moment. And we are lucky that some initiatives on a European level are coming up. There is this long-term investment fund directive, what is helping already a little bit more, bringing the long-term perspective in it. But I think much more has to be done, because you see still the regulators responding to the financial crisis, overprotecting, I think, the small investor. And on the other hand, you feel the need for more people taking their faith in their own hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. L'esperienza italiana